Hey, welcome to Sunday Rants. This is your host, James Arnsberger, and I am excited to be here today for Sunday Rants. So here's what I'd like to do. I've been going through a lot of these cases of wrongful convictions, and there's a host of them up there on the California Innocence Project, and one in particular that I've been reading over the last week. So I thought we'd spend a little bit of time. This is a local case out of here, out of San Diego, up in actually in Oceanside in San Diego County. And this case is just it's very troubling, like all of these wrongful conviction cases. So I thought I would share a little bit of the information and background about the case. And I'm going to be working on some things that we might all be able to do to bring some more focus to this case and maybe create an opportunity to garner some more support to help this individual and the efforts of the California Innocence Project. So without further ado, we're talking about Jermaine Smothers. And basically, you can find a website, freegermain.org, O-R-G, freegermain, Jermaine.org. And you can learn all about Jermaine and his case and sign the petition. Basically, let me just run down a little bit about the facts of the case. It's very disturbing, as all of these are. Jermaine Smothers has been in prison for over 25 years for a crime he didn't commit. On May 11th of 1995, in the northeastern section of Oceanside, California, here in San Diego County, Jermaine and a group of his friends were chased without provocation by an unknown gunman while walking down an alley to a nearby park. And as Jermaine's group ran out of the alley into a nearby apartments, Jermaine heard a series of gunshots. Now, the real danger to Jermaine was not the gunman in the alley, but rather our legal system that found him guilty of murder. Though Jermaine passed a polygraph test and was not involved in the crime in any way, today he remains imprisoned and innocent as an innocent man charged with this murder. The lead detective on Jermaine's case has since been named in a civil lawsuit where, not surprisingly, he coerced a number of teenagers into false confessions who were later exonerated through DNA evidence. Boy, pattern there. Multiple impartial witnesses claimed that the shooter was the tallest in the group and was left-handed, while Jermaine was the shortest in the group and, of course, right-handed. Evidence presented at the trial showed that the deceased victim, the person murdered, possessed a weapon and chased Jermaine's group with the gun. The mostly white jury, not surprising, did not include any citizen of Oceanside and was definitely not made up of any of Jermaine's peers. More than half of the 10 notes that the jury made during the trial related to when the trial would be over, as the jurors had appointments and vacations to go on. And although multiple incidents and dozens of witnesses were involved in the trial, the jury took a little over 2 hours to deliberate and then asked for a television so that they could watch while they enjoyed the rest of the day off. Jermaine was given an overwhelmed public defender while the prosecutor built her career up on this case. Years later, when new evidence would come to light that would exonerate Jermaine, the prosecutor refused to reopen the case. Not surprising. And even as late as 2019, she still felt the need to follow the case and attend the evidentiary hearings, even though she has no reason to be there. And you got to ask, if you had done the right thing to begin with, would you feel the need to keep checking up on it more than 20 years later? Probably not. Jermaine has bettered himself while serving time for a crime he didn't commit. Witnesses have come forward and have later since changed their testimonies, and those who tried to reopen the case have been stopped in their tracks. And the California Innocence Project has believed in Jermaine and his case, and even they have exhausted almost every possible avenue of justice for Jermaine. Jermaine could have gone for parole about a year ago, but he chose not to, as he has always maintained his innocence for more than a quarter of a century. So you can go to freegermain.org. I'm going to encourage you to sign the petition to free Jermaine, and I'm going to be posting some stuff on calfeja.org and our Sunday Rants site, because we're going to now sort of take up the cause for Jermaine's case here and find out if there's going to be some things that we can do, maybe to help provide some more support and look into what other resources maybe that the California Innocence Project might need, and how we might get the word out and maybe start helping to free Jermaine. Tragically, as I said last week, there is not a day that goes by that I don't get at least another 1, 2, or 3 cases involving wrongful convictions. People who in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s were accused of a crime that they didn't commit and are serving nearly life sentences, decades and decades in prison for something that they didn't do. And, the problem with the justice system, the criminal justice system, obviously, from the police to the investigators to the prosecutors, the judge, the jury, the whole mess, is people want to get the case closed. There's very little interest to solve the crime. And this is one of those examples that we talk about where people were just quick to close the case and to hell with solving the crime. It doesn't surprise me that the detective, the lead detective in this case, now is involved in a lawsuit where he coerced, in another case, a bunch of teenagers into false confessions. It's a very common practice. And it happens more than you might know or realize. And again, if it hadn't been for DNA evidence, there'd be a bunch of teenagers probably serving life sentences as well. This entire system, an issue surrounding wrongful convictions, one of the last defenses that we have is that the people on the jury, and that's part of the reason and the energy, a good part of the energy and passion that has led to us forming a public benefit nonprofit corporation called calfeja.org, so that we can actually do something more than complain about a broken system. And I'm going to encourage you to follow both the Sunday Rants and the calfeja.org. And let's follow this case on freeing Jermaine. I've already reached out to the California Innocence Project, and I'll be reaching out to some other folks and seeing what we can do to find out what more we can do to provide both the moral support and rallying support for Jermaine, but see what we can do. I noticed that if you go to that page also, there's a GoFundMe, and we've got another tragic example. And I think part of the real crime here also is the person that committed the murder is still walking free today. And so, we've got no closure for the family of the victim who died, that was the victim of the murder. We've got an innocent man and his family torn apart because of a failed system. We've got somebody walking around that did the murder that has not answered for the crime. And sadly, tens of thousands of cases every year keep adding to the inventory of more and more and more people, predominantly 2/3 of which are Black, African-American, who are incarcerated for crimes that they didn't commit. To have one person serving time for a crime that they didn't commit is intolerable. To have tens of thousands, it's just breathtaking. It's tragic. The criminal justice system here in California and nationwide is an abject failure. And if we ever hope to have anything close to equality in our systems, in our institutions, I don't see how that's possible when we have a criminal justice system that is an abject failure. And for so many people to do so little to fix this is even more breathtaking. It is the institutional indifference that I think is the most outrageous of all of this. Just to follow up on I've got a 3-part series coming out. It'll be pushed up there on calfeja.org, talking about economic segregation, the new modern day redlining, if you will, in the real estate industry, in particular, the issue of valuation of appraisals for residential, commercial, and businesses in communities of color. There are African American communities, Hispanic and Asian communities, and the disparity in real estate appraisals and some of the shenanigans going on in the real estate industry adversely affecting economically these communities. You're going to be shocked, maybe not. Maybe you already realize that we have a big problem in that area, and so I'll have more here in about a week or so on a new 3-part series that I'm going to be publishing here pretty soon, and make sure that we get that out to everybody. And there will be a call to action. There are a few things that we can all do to focus some more attention to this terrible result. In short, Miss Duffy had 3 appraisals done on her house. The first 2 came in at $125,000, and the second one came in at $110,000. Then she suspected that might be her race that had something to do with it, being African American. And what happened was she had the husband of a close friend who was white stand in for her as a proxy to get a third appraisal. She took and removed everything that would indicate what her race was from her home. And then lo and behold, she got a third appraisal that came in for $259,000, more than double the highest of the first 2 appraisals. This is no different than a modern day version of economic segregation and redlining. It might not be through the direct lending practices like FHA back in 1934 when that all started, and the government sponsored economic segregation through loan practices and redlining throughout America. A very dark part of our history, but it's happening today, and it's still happening. And so we're going to bring some focus to that issue and let you know some of the big players on Wall Street that are behind all of this, and some of the organizations that refuse to make any comment. And I'll have more to say about who those organizations are. They have no problem collecting millions of dollars in membership fees, but when you press them in the corner for a comment on something this egregious, and they don't even respond to 5 attempts to do an interview, you got to wonder what the hell are you thinking? Back to wrongful convictions, as I put a wrap on today for Sunday Rants. Just take a moment, if you can today, it being Sunday, i.e. Sunday Rants, and just read Jermaine's story. Imagine if that were you or somebody that you knew or loved. Imagine the frustration, just the sheer weight of a system that refuses to be reformed, and a system that refuses to right a wrong. Imagine what that would be like serving over a quarter of a century in prison for something that you didn't do. You had a chance to get parole and you turned that down because that would mean that you would have to admit that you committed the crime. See, there's no upside to any of this. And our criminal justice system in California is a joke. It's an abject failure. It is replete with corruption, with people that have no business enforcing or upholding the law, who break the law and trample on the most basic of fundamental rights. Due process and fairness doesn't even exist, let alone trying to reform it. So I think that there are things that we can do, and certainly CalFIJA is going to be a vehicle as a nonprofit public benefit corporation. We've got all of our charter in, and we've got all of our paperwork. We've got our tax ID number. We're just now waiting for our nonprofit status approval from the IRS, which will be very soon. And then we're going to be up and running, and we're going to start focusing on two primary target issues. Jury reform throughout the state of California, which is a pretty big topic that you can learn about more. We've already had some successes in California with some new laws, and I'll talk a little bit about those next week. And then wrongful convictions, because you got to remember, a jury convicted Jermaine. A jury has convicted every one of these people that were wrongfully convicted. And if the jury knew the power that they had going in, maybe we wouldn't have as big a problem. And I think what we've got to do now is we have to start as a society, as participants and members of the society, we have to start asking different questions. Because whatever the organization of our current criminal justice system as an institution, it's a failure. It's beyond failure. This thing is a joke. And the only thing holding it together are a bunch of corrupt people that don't want to get held accountable for breaking the law and throwing innocent people in prison. And there's going to have to be something that we do collectively to join forces with other groups and other organizations and start demanding that this thing change. It's intolerable and it's unacceptable on every level that we continue to see every day 2, 3, 4 more cases of wrongful convictions. I mean, I am serious. We wouldn't have enough space to put them all up on our website. And that's tragic. I mean, that's just heartbreaking to think that there are that many people that are serving decades in prison for shit that they didn't have anything to do with. People were interested in closing the case and not solving the crime. And these people have built their career and taken tax dollars for their pensions and their salaries and their benefits. And it's like they don't give a shit about getting it right. They just want to get it done and close the case. Now, don't worry about solving the crime. We got a suspect. He looks like, might be the guy. All right, well, let's go with that. I mean, it's just breathtaking. And then lying witnesses who came back and recanted. And it's just like, the shooter was left-handed and tall. The guy serving time, 29 years to life, is short and right-handed. It's close enough, I guess, for government work, right? If you're a corrupt detective or prosecutor. And so I just want you to think about that for today at some point, what it would be like. And then I'm going to have some things that we can do to get on the bandwagon here to free Jermaine. Certainly write some letters. Maybe we'll get his address where he's serving his time. And we'll find some other things that we can do to help the cause. And certainly, if you want to go to his page and contribute anything to his effort, or to the CaliforniaInnocenceProject.org. And that's one of the cases that they've taken up. But I've read a lot this week about the facts of this case and his story. And tragic as it is, let's try to do something to help free Jermaine. And let's see if we can force this system to right a wrong that is just unacceptable on any level. Anyway, it is Sunday Rants. I'm your host, James Harnsberger. Keep it tight, keep it right. Peace out, and we will see you next Sunday. Take care.